When we feel safe, we're going to connect. When we don't feel safe, we're going to protect.
Welcome to We Be the Change. I'm Colleen Akiko. This is the first episode of Our Inner Ecology, a conversation series with my longtime friend, Jhana Bowen. He's an Australian artist, musician, author, and practitioner of several forms of bodywork and embodied awareness. In this episode, we explore what changes in us and between us when we feel safe enough to connect. Jhana offers a compassionate way of looking at the parts of us that pull back or close down or become protective, to see them not as problems to eliminate, but as deeply intelligent responses that may be guarding something sacred. We'll also talk about artistic creativity, belonging, the wisdom of the body, and the ways we find our way home. I am pleased and delighted to have here today Jhana Bowen from Australia. He is a longtime friend, a multimodality practitioner whose practice includes biodynamic craniosacral therapy, kahuna and remedial massage, art therapy, and instruction in yoga and meditation. Did I leave anything out, Jhana? That's quite a list.
I do have my art practice as well. So I'm an illustrative author. I exhibited in California and in the States. I've had a substantial art practice here in Australia for some time now.
Yes, we didn't get to the art yet. I love how you have woven your art gifts into healing gifts and how you have such beautiful concepts in the images in your book or books. One book, or do you have another one on the table that you're working on?
We're working on a autobiography. Quite a few people strongly recommended I start working on an autobiography, and
Beautiful.
Particularly considering my life history. So that's something there. But I've got a music practice like yourself, Colleen. You know, music has been incredible medicine in my own life. I constantly come back to that as an expression of the divine that moves through everything.
Yes.
And singing is an incredible portal for that. I find that it really soothes and nourishes my nervous system in a profound way, just as art does and bodywork. So it's been a profound practice.
Well, it sounds like you have woven together some really gorgeous strands into a very holistic practice, and one that I know is very embodied as well.
Yeah, I think, your listeners might sort of have an experience of this. We all go through some kind of conditions in our lives where we negotiate deficits in care or in our environment, challenges that somehow we eventually encounter. And, in my own life, those challenges became a catalyst for seeking out ways to come back home to a place that felt profoundly comforting, and places where I didn't feel fully met or held in life. My art eventually became an outlet for that, to find this imaginary place. Creativity is that conduit for imagination. And as Einstein says, it's with imagination that we create the world. And through bodywork, through craniosacral therapy, what I've discovered is that our imagination is our psychology, which is an ecology of sorts. And there are many different parts and facets to not only ourselves, but to the environment. We discovered that the earth has a consciousness. We discovered that each living being, every tree, every mountain, every river, every ocean has this psychology, which is the ecology. It's a reflection of ourselves and the challenges They leave indelible footprints, and they teach me about connection. It's either protection or connection. This is how our nervous system is wired. We discover through polyvagal theory, which is the book that Steve Porges wrote, that the nervous system isn't just two polarities. We don't just have sympathetic and parasympathetic, the accelerator on the nervous system and the brake, but there's so much more than that. We discover that we have a social engagement system, which is all about connection.
True.
And this protection mechanism, which is really valid. It's not a bad thing. It's not something we have to exile, but we discover that protection is necessary to hold what's sacred to us. And so my art practice has been a way to really hold what is sacred. This time in our world right now, where we're seeing a changing world so vulnerable, I think. We see a changing landscape of finances and resources and time, and it's important to really draw close to what we hold sacred and recognize when we go into protection, what's really happening, and that our connections are ever more important. To see the community is everything. The ones we value, not just human beings, but our community of nature, the trees, the animals, the waters, these things, they have a language. And our dreamscape is part of that language. I think modern society has devalued that quite substantially, the dreamscape, our inner psychology, our ecology, learning to come back home to this inner sanctuary. It's important that we hold that in reverence and learn to protect that as much as we hold nature in reverence. And I think that's why bodywork is so powerful, because we learn how sacred the body is. It's a temple as much as any cathedral or any place of worship. And all of these places that we hurt, that move into the unconscious, have an opportunity to surface. We will let go of those protective mechanisms and support connection as a result.
Yes, come into that balance that we were designed to live in and embody. Yes. I love where you have come to. You speak about the dreamscape. Does that take on a different feel in Australia than you felt when you were here in California in the States?
Well, that's interesting. I've only been recently delving into that. I taught a workshop in December last year called Body Wisdom, and a dear friend of mine who does a lot of dream work taught the dream work section. And I've been exploring the work of Tokaba Turner, who's American, and read her book Belonging, and reclaiming our longing for belonging. In that, this dreamscape, I feel, is about our unconscious. It's about our inner mythologies, the language of the unconscious. It speaks through our autonomic nervous system and those places we go when we're triggered, those messages that are speaking through our art practice. They always speak in poetic forms. They're like Zen koans that require our meditation. They require our presence, undiluted presence. And humanity does this. We tend to distract ourselves until we're comfortable enough with being present to those things that are emotionally involving us. So our journey and our evolution really seems to revolve around those parts. And I think this is happening in humanity right now. We can see that with the Epstein files. We can see that with politics. This drive to bring it up into the conscious arena, into the field. Everything is present. And it's our degree of willingness to be with the elephant in the room, basically. And
know that we're safe.
when we feel safe, we're going to connect. When we don't feel safe, we're going to protect, right? And we look
Yeah.
at the defense, the budget for, right? That's our protection mechanism. We wouldn't do that if we weren't afraid. So it's not that that's wrong. And frequently, we'll judge and we'll label things and go, you shouldn't be doing that. And it's a reflection of ourselves. We're like, oh, I shouldn't be thinking this or doing this or that. And that's why addiction is such a huge thing. And we see how much we spend on trying to escape our feelings.
Well, I find that what you offer in so many ways, but especially in the hands-on body work. I remember, gosh, before I met you, coming to a place in my life where I was just running on fumes, and then the fumes gave out and I had nothing. I felt like my aura was ashes, just really not much of me to be present. And someone suggested that I go to it was a lot like you in that he offered massage, but he also offered energy work in the massage, very subtle. And he worked with some other modalities. And, it took a few minutes for me to just feel like, okay, I can relax. I can know I'm okay here, because that felt emotionally dangerous for me at that time. And that was a catalyst in my life. And right afterwards, because of what I experienced with that healer person, I was able to take the next little baby step and then the next one. And that's when the tide turned. Just very simple. It wasn't a huge earth-shaking event for me, but the tide did change when I was willing to be in my body and trust and know that the person who was with me was caring, was experienced, was intuitive, and was present. And I know that you have your way of being you in that process with your clients. It's so good, so good. Really appreciate how you are stepping forward in a way that doesn't just put everything out on the table, but offers it in a prepared, conscientious way. Because what I'm hearing you describe about the times that we're living in now is you're offering a refinement, an awakening to our capacity to be more aware, because we're not having this inner turmoil that is so distracting. But we can, as you've said a couple times, come home to who we are. I love the ways that you gently help those that you work with to just simply come home.
Yeah.
So simple. Sometimes we make it very difficult.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you just holding the ground.
Yeah. And I think that what you're sharing there is so pertinent. Each person listening here is likely to get a sense of what you were speaking about. Like, this experience of being human is sometimes so terrifying. We journey with the deep awareness that we are mortal. We've seen loss, we've seen grief, we've seen every emotion, we've seen the fact that we're not here forever in this human frame. And so we know deep down that we're very vulnerable. And that experience, we have to come to terms with that on some level. And some of us are taking our time with that. And once we really deepen into that, I think tragedy touches us to a point where we go, well, what really gives this life meaning? And I think that's the soul search that we're all on. And so we want to know that we matter. And I feel like that's why we human beings desire to create. We want to leave some indelible footprint, some legacy. And each of us want to feel connected, right? And when we go into those places of self-isolation, we went through COVID and it was imposed on us. But how many of us are doing that on a regular basis? without it being imposed on us. We self-impose this isolation because we don't feel safe on an intrinsic level, you know. And I think that's where therapy, whether that's creative therapy or body work or psychological, it all helps us to come home. And for me, I've recently, you were talking about energy healing. Lisa Peterson, she's in the States, and I worked with her and I'm continuing to work with her. She talked about Charlie Goldsmith, and I was going through my dark night of the soul. I recently moved into this caravan until my treatment space and my new home is being built, and my work started to slow right down, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm spending my savings and I'm thinking, who am I if I'm not seeing enough clients or many clients? Am I no longer worthy or worthwhile in the world? And all these things started bubbling up to the surface, and I'm starting to question my purpose. And I was like, rather than running from this is a great opportunity for deep healing, for me to be really present. And when I'm really present, then I'm really able to influence healing for others. And so I looked into Charlie Goldsmith's work, his energy healing practice. And, you know, Lisa was saying to me, everything is energy. And I was like, oh my God, this is so true. And we so often discount energy healing because, it's all woo-woo, it's all not grounded in science. And here's Charlie Goldsmith, his whole practice is being studied and grounded in science. He's working in hospitals, he's getting massive results for people in minutes, 30-year conditions, chronic conditions being healed within minutes in the first time he's working with it. I'm going, wow. And so I've started training in this practice, and I'm recognizing all the emotions that we don't want to feel, that we push away, are part of this catalyst to helping us come home to being whole. And now more than ever, what I'm recognizing is that this is the process of healing. This is integration. This is where alchemy begins. And no wonder the world is moving through this time where catalyzing, everything is surfacing to actually be seen. So as we journey together, I think the real thing is, if we're distracting ourselves, what is it that we don't want to feel? How can we bring that back in and witness that? And our music helps to serve that purpose. When we're creating music, or we're listening to music, or we're creating art, or making love, or writing a piece of poetry, there's something that we're coming home to, and we're wanting to be met, we're wanting to be seen. And so that really helps that integration process.
Experiencing our wholeness. Yeah, you mentioned tragedies, and virtually everybody has experienced tragedy, sometimes multiple tragedies. And I found as I aged that the tragedies I remember earlier in my life were filled with so much dread and intensity, because I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to be destroyed. I will cease to exist, or something like that. And then coming through the tragedies, experiencing the grace in whatever way that shows up. It's, as you were speaking about connection, experiencing connection with the changeless, with that which does not change, is so profound.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and so lasting. And of course, energetically, when we allow ourselves, all of ourselves, every particle of who we are, to just relish this truth. And that whatever can change in this package that is called me, it's okay. It's absolutely okay. Because that which cannot change, that's really who each of us is. And so just experiencing that and letting our whole body experience that truth. What a difference. And whatever is blocking the healing can't really stay concretized in that energy.
I want to speak to this part, the intelligence that blocks the change. Now, when we look at this, right, this is the interesting part, because we usually think that we want to get rid of what's blocking health or change or our true nature. And this is the protective mechanism that we're talking about, right? Here's connection and here's protection. We usually think of these as two separate things, but it's actually designed by the same intelligence, the intelligence of body, the intelligence of nature. In craniosacral therapy and in a lot of modalities, like we look at family constellations, internal family systems theory, what we see is that this thing that seems to be blocking health or blocking relationship, blocking connection, it's actually checking in to see, are we safe? Is this the right relationship? And instead of running away, instead of saying, I've got to get rid of this, right? What if we opened up to that intelligence and says, what's being asked of this relationship?
Yeah, the attitude of like, oh, there you are. Why are you here?
Yeah.
What are we going to learn today?
And how can I bring my presence into this space? Sometimes it's really important that we step away. Sometimes we need to remove ourselves. Sometimes that protection, that blockage needs space to sort of things settle down a little bit, and we need to resource ourselves. And sometimes distraction is a really necessary thing. It's like if a toddler is screaming and chucking a tantrum, distraction is very valid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I've offered some very interesting distractions in my day.
Yeah, and sometimes you need to, take some time out. That's really important. But that most important thing, I think, really, as we become more and more resourced, is our availability to engage and to recognize that block, that protection is serving a purpose. It's saying, hey, I am not going to open up to just anyone. There's a boundary here, and I'm not going to eat absolutely everything. Some things are toxic. And so those protective mechanisms serve a purpose, and we learn to collaborate with that intelligence in a way that supports connection.
Thank you for listening to Protection, Connection, and Coming Home, the first episode in the Our Inner Ecology series with Jhana Bowen. Perhaps the invitation from this conversation is simply to become a little more curious when protection arises, not rushing to judge it or push it away, but pausing long enough to ask what it may be guarding and what would help connection feel possible again. In the next part of our conversation, Jhana and I continue to explore the deep intelligence within our protective responses and how even what appears to block us may be trying to serve our wholeness. Thank you. And if you'd appreciate a free, relaxed place to reflect and reconnect with others, you are warmly invited to the online Bowl of Light Cafe. Just visit songrise.live and click the Bowl of Light Cafe link near the top. So until next time, aloha.